Hi, I decided to um, change the world, and we're going into one of my um, more advanced worlds. Um, got about 130 hours in it, and I think it will just make for better background footage. Oh, no, let me change that. But yeah, I realized um, in the process of um, figuring out YouTube that I say a lot of the grass is green sort of statements. Um, but yeah, I wanted to 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 keep doing it, to keep on talking to the world. Um, oh, is this the right one? Oh, it is. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I I want to make the central um the central aspect of this project love, and that I think I've made that um clear in the first um few few minutes of the first video. Because love is something that deeply fascinates me, not just as you know as it does to pretty much most people that have lived. Um, oh, what? That's weird. But yeah, it fascinates me on a deeply personal level, not just as a human, because I think that love should fascinate people, right? It should be something that we are constantly in awe of. And I think the direction, right, the direction love is headed nowadays, because I think it's an important mental exercise to carry out. Um, People my age, we are the fathers of tomorrow, right? We are the next generation. We are the responsibles for carrying love into the next. But what I see growing is a lack of love. It is not only that we just flat out started ignoring it, as in either just said, nope, this ain't for me, or just simply stopped looking for, stopped pursuing love because, well, because that's the thing. Modern age, more than anything, has made love a hugely difficult topic to approach because I think this is very evident if you use, say, Instagram, right? The fact that and this I find this very very weird, profoundly weird. Um, the fact that over on Instagram, liking somebody's story, right, somebody's post, is considered flirting. I don't mean to give to give credit to the people that go on about how romance is dead. It isn't, right? It isn't, because you know, sure, we're growing colder, more distant from each other. We're putting more emphasis on meaningless stuff, but there are still people out there that love, that genuinely care, and that uh, love, right? They still can find love, but it's getting harder, right? People are getting more cruel pretty much by the day, and I don't think it's stopping anytime soon. Um, but as to Instagram, what baffles me on there is the fact that you know just the whole deal with liking somebody's story being considered flirting. I mean, that's considered a romantical act. I don't know about most parts around the world, but where I live, it is. It is sadly considered a romantical action, right? And the the part that is just hysterical to me is the fact that it doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't mean jack shit. Um, because you know, I'm gonna propose something here, and this isn't a rule by any means, right? This isn't a hard set rule. You know, there are plenty of cases that can um, avoid this generalization. But if you are going into a relationship and you are going into it already with intentions, right? Already with the idea that yeah, I like this person. Yeah, I love this person. Yeah, I want something with this person. That's not gonna work out, right? Not in this age. It's not because the thing is, like I said, people are getting more cruel, and maybe sometime in the past you could have just walked up to somebody, some random person, some random girl on the street, could have looked at her and perfectly reasonable, fallen in love right then and there. Maybe. Nowadays though, it's not the same, right? And if you go into a relationship and you don't know the person, right? If you're going into it just completely blind, you don't know if that person is just flat out a psychopath, right? Just as that other person doesn't know if you are just a flat out psychopath, right? Um, it doesn't work. Um, there's a reason why the the idea of friends to lovers. There, there's a reason why that works so well, and it's it's precisely because you already know the person, right? When I say know, is I just mean in the broadest sense, right? I just mean like what are their flaws? What are their most basic common knowledge tastes? I'm not talking about anything too deep, right? Um, just in the broadest sense. But if you are going to a relationship and you don't know anything about the other person, it's not gonna work. And I think this is part of the reason why dating apps don't work, right? Dating apps are a cesspit of psychopathy. That's the way I would put it. Do not go on those. I strongly recommend you just enter coma. I think it's more fun, honestly. Uh, it's I have never used them, right? I make it a point not to use them, to not even get close to them at all, in the slightest, ever. Because I feel like, aside from the difficulty that it creates in actually maintaining and creating relationships, I think it's a moral failing. I think that relationship apps, though they can, sure, introduce you to some amazing people that you otherwise, had there not been any app, you might have never met that person. I'll give that to them, right? They have that going for them. But I think it's a moral failing in the sense that you're turning love into a commodity, right? Another person isn't a statistical anomaly anymore, right? They aren't something to be cherished in the rarity. They aren't something that's unique. Each person isn't unique. They're just one of the 300 faces you swipe left or right throughout your day. You are diminishing people to basically the same level as Pokemon cards, and it's psychopathy. It's how I would define it. Um, well, I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that it is definitely extremely disconnected, right? And it goes hand in hand with um, the neglecting of reality, right? Because you confine yourselves to that dating app, right? You confine yourself to swiping, I don't know, like 400 faces per day, left, right, whatever. That person is no more than what you see, right? You have zero clue. You don't know them, right? And what what genuinely fucking rubs me the wrong way is exactly the fact that you're turning love into a commodity, right? It's a currency to be exchanged, and it bothers me so much because it's not a pursuit. It's not a meaningless pursuit. It's not a meaningful pursuit that you run after. It's not something that you take time to build. It's not like, think of it in this shitty analogy, right? Think of old-fashioned love. Think of actual love as you and your buddies setting off into the woods, chopping off, chopping trees down, and like building a log cabin yourselves with your own two hands, right? And then think of relationships made by, I hesitate to call them love, like actual romantic relationships, because they ain't. Let's just face it, they ain't. I'm sorry. Um, think of those as like buying a shitty container home prefab sort of deal on Amazon. You can browse through however many you want, and you just pick and choose whatever looks best to you, right? Whatever looks comfiest, warmest, nicest. You just go around and pick and choose. You didn't do anything. You just opened up a web service and you looked at the products. It's no different than going shopping, right? And that's what I feel like the disconnect steps in. And that's what I feel like it's made more evident. It's in that very fact that you don't get to build anything, right? I'm not even going to to touch on the whole um, side of relationship apps, especially Tinder. The fact that they're horrifically graphic and totally just for showing ding dongs and stuff like that. I'm not even going there, right? Um, but let's say that you find somebody there in Tinder, Bumble, whatever. It's still a prefab home, right? The memories you have of that person, the way you fell in love with her, no, that doesn't exist, right? You swiped left or right. That's it. It's. I mean, I'm speaking from my opinion, right? I'm speaking from what I know and from the ways I have been educated and from the ways I have taken in the world. But I hate dating apps with an abiding passion because they are part of the reason why romance is getting so gray. It is getting horrifically dull. And I mean this in the worst sense possible. It is losing meaning. There isn't connection. Sure, there is pursuit, but you know, just because you kissed somebody or just because you had sex with somebody, does that mean that you have love? No. Fuck no. That doesn't mean jack shit. You know? it doesn't mean anything, and that's the problem with dating apps. And I will be talking more about this some other time. I have arrived at my destination after hitting the storm. And yeah, I'll leave it here. Just kill this little shit. I'm gonna head up there to the silver deposit. I have a portal here. But yeah, I'll leave it up. I'll leave it here. Goodbye.